A historic performance by freshman David Mirkovic as he leads Illinois to an 84-65 victory over Colgate. All right, folks, let's break down what happened on Friday evening in Champaign, because Illinois didn't just survive a classic trap game spot. They powered through it. They leaned on their freshmen and walked out with a convincing victory to move on to 4-0 on the season. But make no mistake, tonight was not about style points. This was more about resilience. It was about depth. And this was about two special freshmen putting the entire country on notice. Again, let's start with the headliner, because he earned it. David Mirkovic. What this kid just did, it wasn't normal. It wasn't routine. This was historic. Mirkovic became the first Illinois freshman since 1972. If you're bad at math, that's 53 years to drop a 20-point, 20-rebound game. He finished with 27 points, 21 rebounds, which broke Kofi's freshman record. He also got his third double-double in 4 games this year. And this wasn't just a big night. This was this dude is introducing himself as a star to the world type of night. He dominated every phase. Second chance points, physical finishes, pick and pop, perfect at the free throw line. He did everything Illinois needed during a game that could have gone sideways very early. And right next to him was Keaton Wagler, 19 points, 6 rebounds on another super efficient night. The two didn't just help Illinois win, they carried Illinois when the veterans struggled. Look, for the first 15 minutes, this game had absolutely trap game energy. Illinois started 8 for 25 from the field. They were tied 28-28 with Colgate late in the first half. Colgate's zone forced Illinois to settle for threes, and the Illini went 11 for 37 from three-point land. And then came the turning point. A flagrant foul on Colgate for shoving Mirkovic led to a 6-point possession. And Illinois used that burst to rip off a 13-2 run to take a 41-30 lead at halftime. From that moment on, for the most part, it was all Illinois. David exploded to start the second half, scoring 12 of the first 21 points, and Wagler drilled a dagger 3 to push the lead to 21. Mirkovic later buried 2 threes of his own for an 8-0 run that essentially put Colgate away. I mean, while those two starred, not everyone had a perfect night. Andrei Stojakovic shot just 3 for 11. Kylan Boswell shot 5 for 16. Zvonimir Ivisic only played 16 minutes, and he left kind of early with a limp. But Illinois also got outscored in the paint, 32-30. They shot only 37.7% overall, and they allowed a 6-0 run that tied the game, as I mentioned, at 28 early in that first half. But here's the part that should make Illini fans optimistic. Even in an imperfect game, even with the veterans having off nights, even with Big Z dealing with an injury, Illinois still won pretty handedly by 19 points. And that is what good teams do. The hidden key to this game was clearly rebounding and effort plays. Illinois dominated the glass, 49-29. They had 19 offensive rebounds. They scored 22 second chance points. They shot 21 for 24 from the free throw line. When the shots weren't falling, the hustle didn't stop. That's the mark of a mentally tough basketball team. Tonight was the definition of taking care of business. Yeah, it was sloppy at times. Yeah, Brad Underwood will have plenty to yell about in practice. But this is the exact type of win Illinois hasn't always gotten in years past. The grinded out game. The grinded out game after a huge emotional victory sandwiched between two marquee matchups. This time, Illinois didn't let it slip. This time, the freshmen stepped up. This time, the team showed maturity. And with Alabama coming on Wednesday, Illinois survives the trap game, learns valuable lessons, and moves forward at 4-0 with momentum still intact. To talk about this game, I wanted to bring on Carson Bounds. Carson, thank you so much for joining us today. You were there. You saw this game live. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with second chance points being the X factor to this game. Uh, just looking at the shot charts, both teams made 26 shots tonight. Colgate 5 of 19 from 3, Illinois 11 of 37. So, you get a few extra points there in the margins, but in total, both teams made a similar number of shots. Second chance points, and then getting to the free throw line. Colgate shot 9 free throws tonight, and Illinois shot 24, and they went 21 of 24. That's where your margin was decided. In a game where both teams shot very similar, it was quite literally getting rebounds, putting the ball back up, and for, Mirkovic, 8 of 8 tonight from the free throw line, and I believe Wagler got to the line, 11 times, made 9 of them. That's the two freshmen were 17 of the 19 points of your win margin. That is massive.
And it's just, I talked about this on Locked On Illini. Well, to me, like what has me so excited about this basketball team was against Texas Tech, a marquee opponent. You relied on your two big stars, your veteran stars, Kylan Boswell and Andrei Stojakovic, to lead you to a victory in that particular game. And in the following game, the one right next to it, you had the two freshmen, the two youngest guys on the basketball team, be your two best players in another game where you win pretty handedly. You win by 19 points. And, Carson, I've been watching this basketball program for 20 to 25 years at this point. It's hard for me to not get excited about just how deep this team is, not just with, average to above average players, but legit potential stars, like guys who could lead the team in scoring. It could be a new guy every single night. I'm sure in the future we're going to talk about, potential guys who could win postseason awards. We're going to go through a laundry list of them on this team. It's not just a bunch of good, role players on this team. We've got a bunch of really good basketball players, period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just talking about some of these postseason awards, I know my good friend of the program, Robert Rosenthal, tweeted tonight that he thinks Mirkovic should be in the talk for National Freshman of the Year. Am I ready to go that far in? I'm not quite sure, but it's hard to argue with the results. 27 and 20. That's a dominant performance. For sure, Big Ten Freshman of the Week, I think, on the short list here this coming week.
I want to see another freshman put up a 2020 game this week, but you're right? We can't say matter of factly because it just so happens to be an absolute epic, historic freshman class when it comes to college basketball this year. In any other year, David would be, considered one of the front runners. I still think, based on the 4 games I've watched and based on the success of how good this Illinois basketball team looks, that he could, make it into the final mentions as the season wraps up at the end. But, for me, it's just, you get to see it in person. I'm so jealous. I'll get to watch it for the first time in person Wednesday when I make it to the United Center for this Alabama game. But what is it about David that is just so different from really any other Illini freshman we've seen in a really long time?
Yeah, he has this unique combination of both physicality. He has the actual makeup and build of a dude who's been in college for 4 years. So he has the body that you need to perform at that level. And then also, Coach Underwood described him as a similar mindset to Ayo Dosunmu in that he's just an absolute gamer and he's incredibly competitive. BU mentioned in post-game presser that he was on him this week in practice about his rebounding because he only had an 18% go rate on rebounds last week. And so he said he was on him and he's cursing back at him in Serbian and he's just getting after it. It's awesome, man. I mean, the kid's incredibly competitive. He responds well to coaching and he responds well to being challenged. I mean, that's something that not every player has in their mental makeup. The fact that he has that, I think, is ultimately that's what creates the results on the court, is just what a competitive player this kid is. And, he credited the coaching. BU obviously appreciates that, but it's obviously more the coaching. That's something you can't teach.
Yeah, I mean, Brad's he's done such an outstanding job with the way he's put this roster together. Last year we had 2 of the top freshmen Illinois has ever had, at least in recent memory. And this year, these guys weren't rated nearly as high, and yet they may have surpassed the production level that ultimately the guys last year did. I want to talk about Keaton Wagler. He had a quote that really jumped out at me, and maybe we'll go a little bit more in depth into it next week. But He said that during the post-game press conference, most people thought I'd redshirt or barely play. I came in with a chip on my shoulder, knowing I could play at this level. You just got finished talking about, how these guys have a chip on their shoulder. How they're always out there trying to prove other people wrong. And it's not just David, right? It's Keaton as well. And I think, when you have those type of young players being mentored by leaders like a Kylan Boswell, like a Tomislav Ivasic, again, I keep saying this, but all these combinations for this basketball team all of a sudden make me wonder where the ceiling is.
Yeah, I think the ceiling right now, this looks like a team that I think can and will compete for a Big Ten title. Like you said, they have the depth. And also on their scouting and how they find these kids, man, it's unbelievable. Keaton Wagler, he also mentioned in the post-game presser that he played for a non-shoe circuit team, an independent AAU program. And when it comes to, the politics of rankings and how to get noticed, how to get onto the radar, even as a domestic prospect, it is incredibly challenging, especially if you don't play for one of these big name brand, Nike circuit teams. And so that's probably part of the reason that he was a little slept on as a high school prospect. If Keaton Wagler lived in New York City or played for, a top 10, travel AAU program, I would be shocked that if he wasn't a top 100 player. So, it's part of that. It's just credit to the coaching staff for going out there and doing their due diligence to scout all over the world and all over the different levels of the domestic circuits to find kids like this.
Carson, a lot of people are mentioning that Zvonimir looked like he had a limp during this basketball game. Did Brad Underwood address this in the post-game press conference?
Yeah, he mentioned that Zvonimir had a little bit of swelling in his knee. He did not specifically say when it was from, so it could be practice. I thought he looked a little funny towards the end of last game. That's personal opinion. There's no coaching confirmation from that, but you could tell as the game went on, he got a little progressively worse, and he only played 16 minutes tonight. I think by the last 3 or 4 minutes, he was kind of struggling out there. He finished, I think, +8 or +9 on the night, so still effective despite not a ton of frequency or usage. But, at a certain point, you're leading, you're clearly going to win. At that point, David Mirkovic had begun his heater as well. There's no point in keeping him in there, especially if his knee is already hurting. But yeah, he didn't specify if he's going to miss any time or recovery timeline, so this could just be a short-term thing, but there's no in-depth update other than he's just dealing with swelling.
Speaking of updates, Mihailo Petrovic did not play. He was kind of teasing us at the beginning of this, at least during the shoot-arounds during the game. It looked like he was ready to go. He was running laps, it looked like. Did Brad say why ultimately Mihailo did not get on the court today?
You have to read between the lines with that. He was asked about it. More or less what I took away from the press conference was simply they didn't essentially need him yet, and there's no point in risking putting him out there and having him get injured because, it's a hamstring issue. We don't know to what severity it was when the injury happened, but I've had a hamstring injury before. They're tough to deal with, and you don't want to rush back because they're very easy to re-injure. And so I think they're just giving him all the time he needs. I think personally he would like to be out there at this point, but until they absolutely need him, I don't know if they're going to use him. So that might just be this Wednesday. I think they might need him. Alabama's a next level opponent similar to Texas Tech. If he wasn't 100% ready to go against Tech, I think he might be ready to go against Alabama. I'm watching that game for his season debut, but that's, again, at this point, personal opinion. There's no coaching staff confirmation on that side.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to that big-time matchup against Alabama on Wednesday night. That's going to wrap it up for this edition. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. This is one of the newer Illini channels, but myself, Carson, JR, we're going to get on here as often as we can, talk about whatever Illini fans are talking about. Also, make sure you check out Orange and Blue News. Both Doug and Carson do a fantastic job breaking you the latest recruiting tidbits. So what's going on with the football team, what's going on with the basketball team. We'll have a game recap between Illinois and Maryland. I think JR and Carson will probably be handling that. So again, if you're an Illini fan, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We got a lot more coming for you. Until next time, ILL.
I know.